Peace and blessings, people. It is that time of year again. All right, so this video is a reminder of what season it is, the importance of eating during the seasons. I'm going to explain why watermelon is so important during this season for your health and so many other things. All right, I'm also going to explain to you how to pick a watermelon. All right, we've all gotten that watermelon that it looked good, but it wasn't good. All right, so I'm gonna give you 3 or 4 tips on how to pick the perfect watermelon. And then I'm gonna explain how you throw away probably the most important part of the watermelon. And I'm gonna explain why it's so important. And then at the end, I'm gonna give you a challenge, all right? And I'm gonna give you a recipe for my favorite watermelon juice, all right? So stay tuned at the end. Let's crack this baby open and get inside. All right, let's get into it. Literally, as you can see, I've already cut it here. All right, so let's first explain the most important attributes to picking a watermelon, all right? Because you want to get the best, all right? You want a sweet watermelon, but you also want the best quality as well, too. So we'll get into that. And then I'm going to help you understand one of the most important parts of a watermelon that most of you are throwing away and why it's important, all right? What it does to your body. You've seen a lot of people out here doing watermelon challenges. I'm gonna give you a watermelon challenge in just a second because we're headed towards the end of the watermelon season right now, all right? So I'll talk about that at the end as well too. But let's get into how you actually pick a watermelon, all right? First and most important thing to picking a watermelon, seeds, all right? The presence of seeds, my friend. It is very important you understand that seeds are a representation of the infinite divine nature of things, all right? The seed was how our food was described when our initial food was described by God. Okay, it doesn't matter if you look in biblical texts or you look into other religions and other historical sort of references, they always talk about the beauty of the seed, all right? Now, of course, you have to understand from a historical standpoint, looking at our ancestors or thinking about our ancestors, they understood the importance of seed because when you have this watermelon, you probably don't grow your own, food, but our ancestors understood that when I eat this watermelon, I need to take these seeds so that I can replant them for the next season. All right. That's what I mean by the infinite divine nature of food. If this were a mango, I could take that seed, put it in the ground, it will become a tree, and for generations, it will generate mangoes for me. Over and over and over. You can have a mango tree that's 100, 200 years old. All right, so that's the infinite nature. It will continue to provide. That's divinity. Provide whether you want it or not, it's still there. So it's really important you understand that the most important choice you're gonna make when you're picking a watermelon or you're picking your food, make sure it comes from a seed, all right? The presence of the seed lets you know that God said, all right, I got this watermelon for you. If you want to plant this and make your own and cut out the middleman, you could do that, all right? So, and it's really important to understand, like when I was growing up, I never saw a watermelon without seed. It's a relatively new concept. All right. And I think people really don't think about how much of a new concept that is, fruit not having seed. All right. But let me tell you why a lot of the watermelon doesn't have seed. Because they used a drug called colchicine. Colchicine is a drug that they use for gout. All right. All right. So a lot of people don't know that. But yeah, that's how they get rid of the seed. All right. And that is an abomination of the divine process, in my opinion. Okay, so the first and most important thing is the presence of a seed. Okay, behold, I have given you every seed-bearing plant on the face of the earth, and that should be your food or your meat. All right, so this is really important. The presence of a seed, my friend. It must be there. If the seed ain't there, we could stop. Okay, we could just stop the whole show at that point. Is there a seed? No seed? All right, so that's not for me. All right, that's exactly how you should think about it. So that's the first thing. The next thing, all right, so now we got the seed there. All right, if you can buy organic so you don't have to panic, perfect. Okay, but sometimes it doesn't come organic. Just make sure you wipe it off really good. All right. The other thing, how you pick a watermelon, you see that yellow belly? All right, you want to make sure that belly is yellow. All right, that's gonna tell you that this one is sweet. All right, so you want to make sure at least one side of it is yellow. All right, that's gonna tell you that that's probably a sweet one. The next thing, all right, you see this green? You want to make sure that you see here, like you barely can see this light part between the dark green. All right, that's pretty good indication that this one is sweet as well too. All right, if you get the combination of those three things, all right, you got the seed, you got the belly that's yellow, you got the stripes that are really close right there. All right, voila, you got a good watermelon. That's gonna be sweet. Sweet for the eating, sweet for the juice, all right? Now that we got that part out of the way, you picked your right watermelon, we good, all right? The next thing is, I want to explain the health benefits of watermelon. I'm not gonna go too in depth because I have a whole nother video that I go into depth about that. So if you want, you can go check that out. First of all, the reason why this watermelon is red is because of lycopene. All right, lycopene gives it this color. Lycopene is the same antioxidant that is in tomatoes. All right, they tell you tomatoes are good for heart health. It's because of the presence of lycopene. All right, so lycopene here, all you see, one antioxidant you're already up in the game right there. All right, so you got the lycopene, you're eating the red, all right? Watermelons originate from Africa, all right? So the origins of watermelons are Africa. They look a little different than ours do, but they originate from Africa. The reason why I'm bringing that up is think about the seasons. Like right now, it's the summertime, all right? What happens during the summertime for us? It's hot outside, so we sweat more, we get more dehydrated. So what will be the perfect food for us during the summertime? Something that has a high consistency and concentration of water. Watermelon. That's the beauty and divine nature of nature and divinity. Producing foods that we need the most during the time of the season that we need it the most. All right, so it's really important to get in alignment with nature properly, okay? It's just really, like when you really sit back and start to think about it, you're like, damn, God really loves us and protects us. So, you know, this is God's love, all right? Getting super hydrated during the time of the year where you need to be super hydrated because watermelon is 92% water, all right? All right, so just let that soak and simmer and marinate in your spirit. Thank you, God. All right, so we got lycopene. We got 92% water, so it's gonna super hydrate you. All right. And then, again, this part. You see this white part right here? All right, all around the rim that you see right there. Now that's the part you probably throwing away because you like, that's the part that's not sweet. This part has citrulline in it, okay? All right, citrulline is very important. Let me explain why. One of the number one sort of causes of death for human beings is cardiovascular disease, all right? The number one risk factor for cardiovascular disease and death is high blood pressure, okay? Not only does hydrating yourself help with your high blood pressure, because most people are dehydrated, that's why their blood pressure is high. I can explain that in another video. But most people are dehydrated, which is putting a lot of pressure and work on your kidneys, which is causing your blood pressure to be high. Most of the things that people are drinking are dehydrating. I'm going to repeat that. Most of the things that people are drinking are dehydrating, all right? The reason why I'm bringing this up is because, again, the number one risk factor for the number one cause of disease or death, the number one risk factor is high blood pressure, all right? When you eat this part of the watermelon, all right, this white rind part, it's loaded with citrulline. Citrulline converts into arginine. Arginine converts into nitric oxide. Nitric oxide causes the blood vessels that are constricted to widen and open up. That makes it easier for the blood to flow. All right? The easier it is for blood to flow throughout the body, the easier it is for blood to get to everywhere in the body. This will cause the blood pressure to go down. Okay? So that's why that's important. All right? Nitric oxide not only opens up the blood vessels in our legs and our arms and our torsos, open up the blood vessels going to our brains and everywhere, but it also, for the fellas out there, it opens up the blood vessels and blood flow to have an erection. All right? A lot of men who are suffering from ED, all right, having problems in the bedroom. Watermelon is your best friend, my friend. That's why during the watermelon season, I'm eating at least one a week. Okay? Super hydrating myself, loading myself up with citrulline, which converts into arginine, which converts into nitric oxide. Okay? Bedroom, no problem. All right? So this is the most important part, not only for men, but also women as well, too. Especially for women of African descent. All right? They're the number one leaders in cardiovascular disease and death right now here in America. All right? So this also will help with cardiovascular health, high blood pressure, blood flow, which is really important, which is going to help with issues like blood clots, ultimately, indirectly as well, too. All right? So this part, you want to get as much of that part in the juicer or in your bowl as possible, because that's the citrulline converts to arginine that converts into nitric oxide. Okay? Now I'm gonna make a juice, and when I make the juice, I'll come back and just kind of show you the end of it. We'll take a sip together and we'll get out of here. I'll show the special ingredient that I actually add to the juice to take it to the whole next level. All right? So hold tight for that, and then we'll come back. Bless up, people. So we are about to juice it up. And as promised, I was going to tell you what my secret ingredient to making my watermelon juice. And this is basil. I know what you're thinking. You're like, basil? Trust me, thank me later. All right? But add in some basil all throughout. All right? You can also see that I got the rind part of the watermelon in there. That's where you're gonna get your citrulline that converts to arginine, that converts to nitric oxide. Okay, so we want to make sure we have that in there. All right, so no games being played. You can see it right there as well too. So we're gonna get this juicing, and then we're gonna have a sample of it and go from there. All right, but basil and watermelon, that's all you need, my friend. Pour it up. Little spillets. No problem at all, though. We are plentiful over here. All right. Cheers. Yo, so try it out in the comments. Let me know if you'll try this sort of juice combination of watermelon and basil. Let me know in the comments. If you tried it before, if you try it, come back, let me know in the comments what you think. I want to issue a watermelon challenge to you. The challenge is for one day, watermelon only. All right. Now, barring you don't have any issues with your blood glucose or diabetes or pre-diabetic, you know, I think this is like getting this hydrated, eating watermelon and drinking watermelon for one day. All right. It's a game changer. I'm going to do it for the weekend. All right. I've done it as much as 7 days before, but I think it's a huge game changer. So come back in the comments. Let me know if you tried the juice, the combination of watermelon and basil. Let me know what you think. Pump it or dump it. Come back. Let me know if you'll try out a one-day watermelon challenge. Okay. I'm going to do it for the weekend. All right. So got weekend warriors out there as well too. So until the next time, peace and blessings and Godspeed. I'm just going to go ahead and have a little sip of this. Peace.